Hey guys, and welcome to my first build order video. This time we're going to be looking at a Protoss versus Zerg replay, as you can tell by this obnoxious overlay. And this is one of many builds that I have versus Zerg. But this build is pretty unique compared to the other ones because it only really works on this map, or it only really works really well on this map. And it's also pretty difficult to use, but it's really, really good. I honestly think that it's imbalanced, and hopefully you'll agree with me if you decide to try it out. But yeah, so let's get into the replay at hand. So to start off this particular video, in this first game I want to look at the build order, like exactly how to go about this build order, like 9 pylon, 15 nexus, you know, blah blah blah. I want to look at the goals of this build, sort of like what you're trying to achieve and what you want to keep in mind while doing it, and that'll sort of help explain why, you know, the parts of the build, why they matter and why they're significant to really focus on, I don't know, doing as I suggest, I guess. I don't know. I worded that poorly, but you'll see. And I think that sort of covers it, but okay, so for this first replay, we are going to watch, we might, you know, start off by looking at the build order, and then we'll go back around and talk about some other things as well. Anyway, let's just start, because I'm sort of losing my train of thought. So, like I said, 9 pylon, 15 nexus is what you want to do. You'll notice that I do not scout. I guess I'll put this on my vision for what it's worth. And I don't probe scout. I don't scout forever, actually. And I'll explain why you can get away with that in a bit. So 15 nexus, 15 gateway. You're going to chrono your nexus. You're going to rally the probe up here, make a pylon. You can change up the pylon positionings to your liking, but when you try out this build for the first time, you might want to stick to what I suggest, I guess. Then you want to get a gas, get another gas, get our cybernetics core, and then you're going to chrono your nexus again, all that good stuff. And around that time, your second nexus will be finishing up. When your gateway finishes, you do want to get a zealot eventually. My current philosophy on the zealot is, if they rush you with zerglings, you'll have no idea it's coming, and so you're going to die anyway, even if you get the zealot immediately. On the other hand, if they send like 6 zerglings at you, the quicker you get the zealot, the better, because it's going to help you defend, obviously. But 6 zerglings on this map is like really not good. It's like super metagaming your opponent. But okay. But you do want the zealot anyway. So you with this gateway, what I usually do is I go zealot first, then 3 or 4 sentries, and then another zealot or a stalker or something like that. And it's important to keep producing off of this gateway because you're only going to have that as your production until your third base gets made. But we'll see that as this build goes on. So you're going to get a mothership core, warp gate, sentry. Those are your next 3 steps after your cybernetics core finishes. And then after that, you're going to get this pylon, this gas. Notice I'm not really giving you guys like specific times or supply counts to do these things at. It's just sort of, it's the flow of the build. You know, as you have the money to do something, such as make a pylon, you're going to need it anyway, so that's when you make the pylon. Okay, you want to keep on chronoing your probes, because you're only spending your money right now on workers and pylons, and then just units off of this one gateway. So actually, let me zoom out a little bit. That might be better. Okay, pylon, blah blah blah. So yeah, you just keep making probes and sentries for now. My mothership core, this is unnecessary, going all the way out here, but really you just want to clear out your third base of any zerglings. That's really all you're trying to do with the mothership core at this time right now. Notice I'm putting my sentries around my base to ward off any overlords that might come in. Typically there'll be like one right here. Actually, let's just go to all vision so we can see. He doesn't really have any. Normally there'll be one like right here. There could be one over here, but usually not, and you'll see why that's important. Usually there's one here, and then one back here in this general area. Okay. Okay, so we sort of missed the most important part of this build order, but around 7 minutes is when you want to take the third base. So just any time before then, when you can afford it, you want to make your 2 Stargates. Typically that'll be like 640, 650 for me. And yeah, and then after you take a third base, which I guess I'll actually show that being built, you want to add a 4th gas geyser, which will be right here. I make 2 pylons down here. This is to sort of block run-bys. It's not really that important, honestly. But this is the more important pylon, because you want to put 2 photon cannons up here eventually, but we'll get to that in a second. So this gas should be coming up any second here. And then the next really important step, and this is going to seem like this build is way too greedy, but you want to get 2 forge. And it's really important to get 2 forge, and it is safe, and we'll get into that as this video goes along, as well as this specific replay. And I guess I should say, I will have at least 3 replays in this video of this build, just to show you different scenarios of what you can expect to get thrown at you. And then, you know, you'll have a better understanding of how to react to those scenarios. But okay, so notice I have 4 sentries. I should be making a Zealot or a Stalker right now. This was a bit of an older replay, so... Also, I want to note, still no scouting information. A blind counter to this build would be any sort of early pool cheese. If you want to stay safe versus that, you can send a probe scout, but you lose a lot of minerals, and it's a very uncommon build for the meta that I am playing in, which is basically masters and above players. So, but if you see a lot of early pools, for sure, probe scouting is not a bad thing to do at all. Okay, so now the third base is being constructed. The Stargates are finished. The first thing you want to do is make a Void Ray. The Void Ray is not going to be great at defending versus speedlings, but it's going to help. It's going to be enough, which is the important thing. And then it will be great versus defending roaches. Okay, and then other than that, this is a Phoenix build, which I guess I didn't really talk about, but maybe I'll put it in the title or something. But yeah, this is a 2 Stargate, 2 Forge Phoenix build. And so you just make 1 Void Ray, no Oracles, and you want to make usually 6 to 8 Phoenix. It depends on how the game is going, honestly. But okay, and then the Void Ray and the Mothership Core should be around here. So after you... When you can afford it, you want to make 2 photon cannons. Normally I just put 1 gateway. It doesn't fully wall this off, but it's good enough. And it's much cheaper than making a 2nd gateway there as well. So the upgrades are going. This Phoenix is chilling out. I guess I'll tell you my normal my normal strategy of the Phoenix as they're being constructed. You'll see this Phoenix is going to go all the way up here, check for overlords. I like to check in this spot for overlords. This spot, I guess we can go to all vision at this point. And then I like to run it up this side as well, and then clear out the ones that might be back here. After you have done all of that, you'll have a decent number of Phoenix up, because you just want to keep making them. And then you can group them all together and just do basic Phoenix harassment as well as scouting. The scouting's honestly not that important. 9 times out of 10, your opponent is going to go Hydras as a reaction. If they go Muta, I guess this is a good counter to it. If they go straight into Muta, because you have 2 Stargates for Phoenix. So you don't really have to scout for Aspire. I mean, you're just going to be ready versus it anyway. And, so yeah, your main goal with the Phoenix is to force the Zerg player, which I guess I'll start to get into the goals of this build. The main goal with the Phoenix is to force the Zerg player into making Spore Crawlers, making extra Queens. You're forcing them into Hydralisks. And yeah, I mean, it's not like Spore Crawlers and Queens are a major hit to their economy, and you may have noticed that the Zerg player can be as greedy as they want because you're not doing any significant pressure, but you're also being super greedy, so you're going to end up ahead, which is the cool part, And it's honestly, okay, I don't want to get too distracted. So one last thing that's important is you want to scout for Nidus worms that might be coming up. And these are going to be like early Nidus Hydra Queen attacks. They're very difficult to defend if you don't scout for it, or if you don't execute this build perfectly. So normally what I'll end up doing is have my Void Ray patrol in this area maybe, have a Zealot patrol in this area, and then maybe even another thing over here to scout. And at the very least, it'll buy you time to then build up units to defend versus it. Because let's say you cancel out the first Nidus Worm, that's a lot of time it's going to take for them to make another one, and then come at you from that further away distance. Okay, so let me finish up. I got distracted on some information, but let me finish up the general build order. So we're just going to keep looking at me. I'm not going to be concerned about what the Phoenix are doing. So actually, let me pause again. We went about 2 seconds uninterrupted. When you have about 10 to 12 workers, I would say, on your third base, is when you really want to start cutting workers for a little bit and getting your core tech buildings down, and then probe up sort of cautiously, I guess, so that way you can allow yourself the minerals to add on your gateway production. Because right now we're still on one gateway and 2 Stargates. You want to be able to defend yourself if a big roach attack or Hydra attack comes. And usually the scary thing would be the Hydras. But, you know, I guess you might get roach maxed. The thing about... we'll see, we'll look at that in future videos. But, okay, so this game I'm pretty sure I made too many workers before adding production, but the next 2 steps is the Twilight Council for charge, as well as to continue your upgrades, and then the robotics facility. I definitely added gateways too late this game. I basically fully saturated this third base, which is absolutely what you don't want to do before making gateways. But once you do this build a couple times, you'll sort of get the hang of it, for sure. And then, really, this is pretty much the standard setup. What I'm going to do every single game, basically. I like to go up to, like, at least 10 gateways. That might seem like a lot, but that's what I prefer on 3 bases. If you're, like, in a lower league, and you can't quite keep up with the macro, you know, the income that you have, add on more gateways, for sure, without a doubt. Okay, so then the next step, which you probably could have guessed, is to go into Colossus. I tried doing Storm with charge. I didn't really like it, honestly. It's just too much gas, just with a 3-base economy. Going for Blink Sentry might work. I think force fields are pretty bad, though, on this map. But, okay, so that's the general build order. Let's talk about the goals that you're looking to accomplish with this build. So, first thing that we notice is that it's extremely greedy. You go for a nexus first into a gateway. The reason why, with no scout as well, the reason why I decided to do this on this map is because it's a big map, the rush distance is long, but more importantly, it has a single choke ramp with an in-base natural. This build is specifically designed for this map. It's going to work best on this map. It can work on other big maps, I guess, but it's going to be much less effective, because on this map I honestly believe it is imbalanced. And then it continues to be greedy by staying on 1 production building, and then going into a third base, and then going immediately into 2 forge. I think the best thing your Zerg opponent could do is also go extremely greedy by taking his 4th base at the gold base, just making like tons of drones. The problem is it's difficult to do that as a Zerg player, especially when all of your Overlord scouts are being zoned out by sentries, and then being later killed by Phoenix. A lot of Protoss players are very aggressive, so, you know, opening with Phoenix and going into a 2-base all-in or 3-base all-in is not uncommon. So it's difficult for the Zerg player to be all that comfortable being super greedy as well. And so you just get a general advantage just from the build order alone, without really much happening in the game in terms of trading off units and harassment and stuff, you're going to get an advantage because of your really fast upgrades. You're controlling the flow of the game, which is extremely important versus Zerg. And you'll just have the like a pretty good, you'll have like probably a bit of a lesser economy. We'll see if I can pull up the workers for a bit. He's already on 72 drones. Like, that's a huge worker lead. But you're also being very greedy, so. So I guess what I should say is, even though you're letting them drone up for free, you are making up for that with your upgrades. Okay, so I probably missed something with sort of that general idea of what are the goals of this build, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. I can cover it later on if I think to do so. Okay, so this game was a pretty standard game of what you can expect to see when you do this build. I think this build really works in this map because of the really long rush distance. It's very... going for Hydra attacks are a very popular response to seeing this as a Zerg player, but it just takes so long to get all the way down here. And having those extra 10 to 20 seconds, basically it makes the difference between holding it easily and then sort of trading off a bit too costs inefficiently. Which is a very important difference in this matchup for sure. Okay, so your Phoenix, it's really important to keep them alive. If they die quickly, the Zerg player can go into a muta switch, which is pretty scary. Even though you have 2 Stargates, it's if you lose all your Phoenix, it's going to be tough. But really, you just want to kill drones, kill rallying units for sure. As I mentioned, first thing I like to do is kill the overlords around the map. And then if you're going to be attacked, Phoenix are good versus Hydras, assuming that you either have a ground army supporting you, or that the Hydra count is kind of low. But okay, so he's going to go for the very standard attack that you will see a lot. This is the exact reason why it's important to have your gateways added on at an appropriate timing and not over probing before doing so. This game, I mentioned that I added them on too late, and I honestly don't really have that many either. Let's see how many I have. I have 6 warp gates and I have 4 more coming in, so I guess that's fine. Okay, however, he does not actually engage me. I think I would have been able to defend, but he was definitely a bit passive with that decision. You don't need Colossus to defend these sort of first waves. You just need your gateways, that's all. And then just, you know, be patient, use the overcharge. Make sure you're fighting with that in range. It's not that huge of a difference maker, but you know, you'll take anything you can get. These 2 photon cannons are actually probably more impactful, to be honest. Okay, and then that's pretty much, I mean, from here it's just a normal macro game. The difference being you have control of the game with the Phoenix, you have scouting with the Phoenix, you have really good upgrades, and good tech as well, I suppose. One thing I want to mention is that I actually have started to make a warp prism before I've made my first Colossus, so I'll go get like an observer and then a warp prism. Having like the warp prism come up here, phase in, harass with some charge lots is really effective while pressuring down, you know, this side of the map with the rest of your army. Of course, with recall available. Okay, so I don't think there's really anything too important to note. We'll just wrap up this game, I suppose. The 4th base timing isn't that important, to be honest. You're really just trying to get 3-3 as fast as possible. And then once you have that, as long as you're doing pretty decent in the game, you should be able to win pretty well. We're going to see the real strength of this build right here. This fight goes about as poorly as it possibly could have, and I still end up winning the fight and winning the game. So first thing you'll note is my Phoenix are out of position. I didn't see this until it got here. I was trying to move up here to pressure these bases while using Zealots to harass. And he attacked basically at the perfect timing. This Colossus is out of position. all these things went wrong. My micro's not good in the first place. And we'll just see how this fight goes out. And just keep in mind, I have 2-2 and he has 2-0. So that's a 2 upgrade advantage. And soon that advantage will be a 4 upgrade advantage by me having 3-3 and him having 2-0. This is going to be a pretty normal thing to see when you do this build. These High Templar, I want to sacrifice them, take the express route to Ire. That's my one joke per video. And it was planned! No, it wasn't. Anyway, okay, Phoenix, kind of deal with Vipers. Honestly, I have picked off Vipers being spawned more than once, so I guess that's pretty, useful thing that the Phoenix can do. Okay, alright, so, and there you go. You just killed the Zerg army, because, Protoss. And so that's this video. Let's go into the next game. Okay, so this is the second replay that I wanted to look at. In this game, I have done the exact same thing as the first game. The nexus is made. Before that, I have made 2 Stargates. And then after the nexus was made, 2 Forge have come down. The 4th gas was taken. The reason I wanted to show this replay is because my opponent goes for a very aggressive 3-base all-in with roaches and speedlings. Now, against later roach all-ins, I don't really see them very often at all, but the nice thing about having 2 Stargates is that you can make Void Rays and you win. Versus that, even though you only have 3 production buildings, usually when that will come, just make Void Rays and you should be fine. But, okay. So, this is one reason why making these Forge this quickly is very important. It's because you want to start these cannons basically as soon as you can afford them. But of course you can't make them unless you have the Forge. So making my Stargate units. I just want to keep in mind that I have not scouted at all this game. I've done a very greedy build. And I'm only going to see this as soon as it hits me, which is right now. Okay? This is one reason why having the Void Ray out here is more important than hunting for Overlords. It just gives you a little bit more time to defend, and also keeps your Void Ray in perfect position to defend as well. Okay, so I see this right now. When you see roaches like this, it's never just to do like a little bit of poking. 4 roaches or 6 roaches is not going to do anything versus 99% of builds. So you can assume it's something very aggressive. Okay, overcharge is used. You'll notice that I do have 2 overcharges for this fight. I don't really want to give a play-by-play, because that will be sort of useless, but the important thing right now is to sort of stick with the build, but to also make Void Rays. Void Rays are usually going to be the key versus anything roach-based. And you can add on photon cannons. I don't think it's all that important to do so, or good, I guess is the more important thing to say here. But yeah, so you just, again, you want to be really patient. You have 2 photon cannons, you have an overcharge. Let him come to you. Going out here with your units is very bad. Keeping them back here is very good. You want to protect your ramp with a force field, but also, if he wants to walk in to try to kill you, just force field him off. You want at least 3 sentries, so you're not scouting with them, you're just banking up all their energy. Okay. So let's go and see how this fight plays out, I guess. Again, I micro really poorly. I mean, it shouldn't be hard to notice. One thing that you will notice, though, is that I have brought back all of my units. Harassing right now, while defending this, is just so much multitasking that you're not going to do anything efficient. And the Phoenix are kind of useful with defending this. Once again, my micro is awful. I did add on a cannon. That's not really anything too important to say, but I am making Void Rays, I guess. And then you'll see, right now, Phoenix is queued up. I'm guessing the next unit to come out of here is going to be a Phoenix. There it is. You want to, I can make 2 more Void Rays, but what are they really going to do? If he's going to keep attacking me, 3 Void Rays is going to be enough. So I'm just going to get right back on track with the build. I make a robo facility. You want that anyway. It will help defending this if another wave is to come. And then you just defend. pull probes if he wants to surround your nexus with zerglings. I mean, that's a judgment call though, so I'll let you make that decision. And then just right back on track with the build. And that's really all I want to show this game. Once again, this game goes about as poorly as it could go. I micro really badly. I got too aggressive with these units, and you'll see in a second. You know, when you make 3 Void Rays, it's very easy to want to do something aggressive with them. But this is what can happen. He's got a ton of zerglings. Keep in mind, I still only have 1 warp gate. I'm adding on more right now, but I still only have 1. So he's just gonna go kill the nexus. He actually doesn't kill it by a whole lot, but he does kill it, which is a huge pickup for him. The Void Rays are doing damage, but it's not enough to justify losing my own third base. Okay, and then from here on out, you're going to notice the same core thing. Twilight Council Robo, going for Colossus. Add on gateways when it's appropriate. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I have 1 or 2 more videos that I want to get to, so let's just go ahead and hop into those. Alright, so this is going to be the 3rd and last replay that we see of this build order. The last thing I wanted to cover was very simply what to do if your opponent tries to deny your third base with speedlings. Now, if your opponent goes for fast speed on his zerglings, chances are it's not just for map control. They're going to try to do something aggressive with them as well. And especially for this map, that's basically just going to mean deny your third base. So the question is, you see speedlings, what do? You pretty much can't defend a third base if you go for it at the normal timing and if you do this build out the way I suggest doing it. So the question is, what do? Well, as soon as you see any zergling with speed on it, before you try to take your third base, and chances are they will scout around your third base with it, so your Mothership Core should see the zergling. Maybe they try to poke up your ramp, probably not, but they might. You want to stick to the build, but you want to do so without the third nexus to start. So that's what we're going to see me do right now. Now, I do want to mention that I am less practiced versus this scenario as opposed to the other things that we've talked about. But I still believe that this is going to be your best bet while playing versus this. So we're just going to assume that you are doing the same builds but without the third base. So 2 Forge are coming up. The 2 Stargates were made before I would even consider making a third base. I'm going to keep making units off this 1 gateway. Now the real question is, how greedy can you be at this point? If your opponent is only showing a few zerglings, then I would say you can make your nexus and wall off as quickly as you can with the 2 cannons, and you might be alright. I don't know. Again, I'm not so familiar with this scenario. I think chances are you're going to have to go up to like 3 gateways and then get a warp-in round off, so that way you can defend your third base with a few more gateway units. Also, you know, we've been making the Void Ray because it's good versus roaches primarily, but it can also help versus speedlings. But if you know your opponent has speedlings out like this, the Oracle is going to be the much better choice. You'll notice that I'm going to follow the build order though. I'm going to make a Phoenix, I think. I think I'll queue up a Phoenix sooner or later. I'm not sure how much money I have right now. Unfortunately, with this UI, I need the name panel up to see stuff, so... But okay, Oracle. I'm just going to be safe with my units. I'm going to try to force heal, but it's a bit too late. But the Oracle is doing a lot of damage, and it's really going to help me clear out his Zerglings. Of course, he could send more, but it's just a huge investment to do so. And so there we go. So now I can take my base. It's coming up 2 full minutes later than it could have, but if we look at the Units tab, I am just a little bit behind on workers, and to make that many speedlings right away, he had to cut a lot of drones. So you're really fine. You're still staying on at least on even footing, I would say. But it's just important to then go straight back into continuing on with the build. So Phoenix are out. And yeah, I mean, this is nothing new that we haven't seen before. I prefer to get the Twilight Council before the Robo. Not really a big difference either way, to be honest. And I don't think there's anything else I want to say pertaining to this build order. I guess I'll wrap up this video with, if you have any questions while trying to do this build order, just let me know, for sure. I will try to help you to the best I can. And I think I mentioned earlier that I make usually 6 to 8 Phoenix. I really wouldn't recommend making more than 10. I just think it's too much of an investment. I also want to point out I don't get the +1 attack upgrade for air units. And I think that's pretty much it. But okay. So, good luck, you guys, if you choose to try this out. It's really strong, as I've said a bunch of times. And I think that's it. So, yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. And I'll see you guys in the next video.